All right. Welcome to the first episode of Practical Chaos Podcast, where I will be delving into some of the sayings and great advice that we get as people, parents, and women. Yeah, good fun, good fun. All right. Well, this first episode is called It Takes a Village, because which one of us has not been told that it takes a village to raise a child? And that can sometimes be hard because you might not have your village right in front of you. All right. Well, where did it come from and who said this first? Because whoever they are should probably reevaluate what they said. But I digress. So the saying does come from an African proverb, several of them actually, that have all kind of been combined together. And then people just rolled with it. And they're like, yes, this is perfect. This is what we need to tell people when they have children. Takes a village to raise a kid, in case you weren't aware. Essentially, what it broke down to is entire communities have to interact with children for them to grow up in a safe and healthy environment. You think back to growing up in a cul-de-sac, every kid, was everyone's, not necessarily responsibility, but, you go over to your friend's house in the neighborhood, you could go 2 doors down and jump on the neighbor's trampoline and nobody really cared. It's developed to mean creating a sense of community and a support group. And as it's gone forward into a more modern day thing, it essentially does really connect to that having a support group and having, those parent friends or, family that you can turn to, drop your kid off at, run away, try and go to the movies, or, just sit in your house in silence. My favorite one when kind of reading through all of these was from Swahili. I am not going to do anything about trying to read this. So what I'll do is if you look in the show notes, you will be able to find this saying. Essentially, though, what it broke down to is whoever is not taught by the mother will be taught by the world. Look at that. Isn't that just so much more beautiful? If the kids don't learn at home, they're going to learn somewhere out in the world. Makes much more sense. It makes me feel much less guilty about having 0 mom friends I can send my kids over or go to play dates with. It's more sophisticated and it's more special. Why don't we just do that? Anyways. Like I said, I digress. Hopefully, we'll edit some of this out. We'll see. So, as I've mentioned previously, if you do know me, so I am a military wife and I am also a mom to a toddler. Military life and having that village is very, very difficult. Being in the military, you meet all sorts of different people from all walks of life. You meet people who grew up in a big city who were riding the subway by themselves at age 8. You meet people whose parents didn't even let them walk down the street by themselves. So there's just a lot of different people, and it's great in that aspect when you can meet different people from different places. You can make some great friends and all of that fun stuff. It's, yay, we're all a big military family. But it also makes it very difficult to find your village and feel like you are part of something bigger than yourself and that you have people that you can kind of lean into when you do need that help. For myself, I had a really big problem finding mom friends, and I still do when it comes to being a military wife, because I was older than a lot of the girls that do, they marry their military man at 18, they have a kid very soon after, they have 4 kids by the time I had my one. And not that there's anything wrong with that. Let me just throw that out there. But that's just not how I lived my life and how I kind of moved forward with it. So it makes it really difficult because on top of that, I'm also a full-time working mom, and I've been a full-time working woman from the minute, I stepped foot on a base, before that actually. And so it's really difficult for me because you find all of these other women who they are stay-at-home moms, and they were very young when they had their kids. So these women who have kids who are my son's age are all, 18, 19 years old, and so they feel, in a sense, that I'm judging them, and the same, vice versa. And so it's really difficult when you do finally find those people too, because I do have great mom friends. I have one of my best friends lives in Oklahoma, and sadly, before I even had my son, she moved back to Oklahoma, and I was in North Carolina on a base. And then my other best friend is in Michigan. We've known each other our whole childhood. When she had her kids, I was living states away. When I had my son, same thing, states away. And it's so difficult to try and get together and try and support each other when we're nowhere near each other. Yes, social media does help us all feel connected. I FaceTime my one friend when I can. We haven't gotten to as much lately because we're both really busy. She has 3 kids, school activities, a new baby who's super cute, and then my other friend, she runs a full-time business. Yes, do we talk when we can? Of course. But now I live in a completely different time zone, and so that makes it really difficult too, because the times that they might want to talk, I'm either at work or I'm sleeping, or I'm taking my son to appointments or trying to do things with him, and it makes it really, really difficult to try and connect with these people when you're so far away. And then you do sit there and you want to make these intense and life-changing connections with people. And it's really difficult because the only thing you can think is, okay, if I spend the time and make these connections with them, are we going to stay in touch when they move 5 states away? Am I going to stay in touch when I live thousands of miles away from my friends and from my people who I absolutely love and I, want to be near? Am I actually even going to still talk to them because we're going to be so busy? Is it worth me putting myself out there and taking the time and the effort to really try and forge these friendships that may or may not turn into anything? And, that kind of just goes for life in general. Do I put in that effort to try and put myself out there? Or do I kind of just sit where I'm at and just say, no, I don't need anything. I don't need anybody. I'm good where I'm at. It's really difficult. And I feel like the military life gives a whole new aspect to it because for a fact that these people are going to move somewhere else that you might not be. They could go anywhere. With me, I'm a Marine wife. And so they can be in California, they can be in North Carolina, they can go all the way to Japan, they can end up in a lot of different places, and just kind of being able to put yourself out there and connect with these people can be really difficult, and on the same sense, being a working mom versus a stay-at-home mom, all of us are all worried about all this judgment day in and day out. You see so many articles about being a stay-at-home mom, and you also see articles about being a working mom. And then each of us has our own thoughts on these processes and on what it means to be a stay-at-home mom. And, stay-at-home moms are so lucky because they get to see their kids and they have time to do, the housework. They have time to make fresh meals and they have time to do all of this stuff. And then you also have the stay-at-home mom that's like, oh my gosh, this working mom is so lucky. She gets to go to work and she gets to not have little hands on her all day long, pulling on her hair, asking her for snacks and asking me for all of these things. And yet both of us really just want to be connected and have those people that we can turn to and be like, look, my kid is being an absolute jerk today. Oh, yours too? Yeah, mine's a jerk too. Because guess what? All of us are going through the exact same thing, just in different levels and different experiences. But we're all raising tiny humans who are all jerks, who all want snacks, who all want to just sit right on top of you and not even ask their father for anything. Or maybe you're a stay-at-home dad and your kid just sits there and asks you for snacks all day long. Regardless, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad, working mom, working dad, we are all raising tiny humans. We all need help and we all need people to be able to surround us when we're doing all of this. And one of the best stories that I have as far as, you don't want to put yourself out there and try and connect to these people that you really might not have anything to connect to. One of my best friends, her husband and my husband knew each other when they hit the fleet and, they worked together and all of this other stuff. And, husbands talk. It's what they do. They'd, oh yeah, so-and-so said this about his wife, or his wife's doing this, or you should do this. And in the military life, I've made a lot of jokes where these guys kind of look at each other and like, oh, I have a wife, you have a wife, let's put our wives together. It's like a wife play date. It's kind of like puppy play dates. And they try and get their wives together because they have the best intents when they're doing this, because they want us to have friends. They know how hard it is that we've all moved away from our family, because it's hard for them too. And so one of my best friends, her husband would come home and tell her how, oh yeah, Brown's wife, she's going to school and she works and she does this and that. And she would look at him and be like, oh great, so this is someone I don't want to hang out with because she does all of this stuff all the time and she's super busy and she's probably going to look at me some sort of way because I don't do all of this stuff. And then it's vice versa, oh, she stays home with the kids, they do this, they do that. And it's like, oh man, well, I don't really need to hang out with that person. Like, why would I do that? Our husbands were coming home from a deployment and she had 2 small kids and was moving back to North Carolina and had posted out on Facebook on random, just asking, hey, is there anyone who, would mind giving me a little bit of help? And I was like, you know what? Why not? Our husbands know each other. Her husband actually spent Christmas at my house right before his deployment, and That way she could go home and get the kids and stuff settled. And so I hit her up and she was like, yeah, sure, let's hang out. Why not? Let's do all of this. And from then on forward, we literally stared at each other and said, why the hell did we not hang out sooner? Because this whole military life, this whole deployment, everything would have been that much easier. But both of us had this misconception in our heads about what the other one would think about us. And some of that might have to do with anxiety and other things like that. You know, you just are always expecting not necessarily the worst out of people, but you're always expecting something to go wrong when it involves yourself. And so you sit there and you just don't do anything, and you could be missing out on these great friendships. Now, am I saying I go and I talk to everybody all the time now? Hell no. I barely talk to myself. You know, I barely talk to the people that I work with. You know, so these things, it's just so crazy to be able to sit there and be like, why am I not reaching out to these people who might want to be reaching out to me? So all I'm saying is maybe take a chance, say hello. If you really don't get along, just be like, you know, listen, yeah, it's not going to work. We're not going to be able to do this, but let's be friendly. Let's still, you know, be good about that. And then, so when you look at this whole idea of it takes a village, yes, some of that does go along with, obviously, you want your kids to have other kids to play with. You know, you want to have other moms to be able to shoot the shit with and kind of bitch about a little bit, because we all love our children, but there are times where I really wish my kid would stop telling everyone he's a fuck, because he's just a frog and he just wants to hop places, but I'm tired of it. And along with that, there's so many stories of these moms and taking their own lives because they're suffering with postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. And while yes, I feel like healthcare providers are taking it a little bit more seriously, I still feel when it comes to our villages and our societies that we're trying to put together and those support groups, that it's not talked about nearly as much as it should be. There's 70 to 80% of women who experience what they call the baby blues. And so that's pretty much like, oh, you're kind of sad after baby, you know, it's not necessarily full-blown postpartum, but a lot of times postpartum does go undiagnosed. And so a lot of the statistics that I'm about to give moving forward, because this is about to get to the more serious part when it comes to, this episode, because I think it's important that we are out here supporting each other as parents, as moms, as people in general, and to know that you're not as alone as you think. 70 to 80%, that is a ridiculous number of women who are going through all of this. That's ridiculous that this is happening and people still feel so alone, like they're the only ones going through it. And out of those 70 to 80%, 10 to 20% will suffer clinical postpartum, where someone actually diagnoses them with postpartum depression. Postpartum depression, you essentially don't feel connected to your kids. You don't want to be near them. You don't want anything to do with them. You know, and it's really difficult because all of us through our whole pregnancies, the only thing we can think about is, how can I be a good mom? What am I going to do that'll make me the best mom? Don't get me wrong. You're going to sit there and go, oh, I'm never going to do this, or my baby will sleep by themselves in the first month because I read all these books and I know what to do. Well, I'm sorry if you haven't had kids yet and you're listening to this. I'm really sorry to tell you that your kids don't know how to read, and so none of them read the books that you did. And so none of them know what they're doing, and they're all going to cry, and they're all going to scream. They're all going to do the things that you swear they will never do. They're going to eat the chicken nugget off the floor when you ask them 800 times to. My son walked around carrying a piece of dog poop the other day because he called it a rock, and I realized what he had in his hand until he literally handed it to my husband and said, look, it's rock. No, it's a piece of poop. That is dog poop that you've been carrying around all day in your hand. Come on, we need to go wash hands now. All of this stuff is going to happen, and to sit there and then tell people that they shouldn't be feeling the way that they're feeling, like, oh, it's okay, it'll pass. No, guess what? Sometimes it doesn't, and it's okay to talk to your doctor and get help. It's okay to call up your best friend and tell them you need to take a minute. And, as a mom and just as a woman in general, it doesn't matter, it's okay if you see your friend struggling and you're like, you know what? Hey, I'm coming over. I will be there in 15 minutes. Show up. Tell them to go take a nap. Tell them to go take a shower. Send them away. Say, hey, you should go do this and I'll sit here. But then you bring in postpartum anxiety. And that's a whole other thing. Postpartum anxiety makes you not want to leave your child, despite the fact that you know for a fact you need to step away. Because if I step away from my child, nobody else is as capable of caring for them as I am. I step away from my kid for 1 second, and what if they suffocate? How is my kid going to suffocate? He's literally laying flat on the floor. But what if he does? And that's a whole thing when it comes to anxiety. It doesn't have to make sense, but it's something that you're worried about, that I'm not going to say you don't have to be, but something that shouldn't be as forefront as it is. So kind of back to these things, there's one in 7 women are diagnosed with this postpartum depression or anxiety every year, based on, I forget what it said, like 4 million births or something like that within the United States. That is 600,000 diagnoses a year. 600,000. My son, so since the time that my son has been born, he is just a little over 2. We'll say it's 2.5. That has been 1.2 million diagnoses of other women with postpartum depression. That is absolutely astronomical. And nobody's talking about it. Yes, we say, oh, watch out for postpartum. You're in these mom groups on Facebook and it might be mentioned here and there, but it's not really talked about. So guess what? If your friend is feeling sad, if your friend calls you and tells you they're feeling alone and you have the ability to walk over there, drive over there, and sit down with them for a minute, then do it. We don't want to admit that we're failures. So a lot of us aren't going to say, yes, I have postpartum depression. I did. I had postpartum depression. I had postpartum anxiety. I had the whole shebang. And guess what? I went to my doctor. I said the exact same thing. I said, well, I just feel like maybe I'm not doing exactly what I should be. And she's like, no, this is postpartum depression. You need to treat it so we can help you feel better. And sometimes these women, it's not even necessarily like, I feel sad. It's you feel like an absolute crazy person all the time. And no one should have to feel that way. If it's a medication that makes you feel better, awesome. If you need to go to the gym to feel better, fantastic. You need to be able to make time for yourself, whether it's looking your partner dead in the face and being like, I am walking out of here right now and I'm going to go do this. Yes, it's hard. Yes, I in no means am saying that this is an easy thing to do, but we as moms need to be able to accept that this is something that happens, and getting help because you feel this way does not mean that you are a failure whatsoever. It does not mean that you are not a good parent. It does not mean that you are not a good mom if you need to step aside for a minute and step into the other room because your kid has been crying for 12 hours straight. You need to take care of yourself as a woman and as a mom in order to be there for your kids. When you have kids, they take your whole identity. They really do. You don't know who you are. And guess what? I've been told, because I'm still in the throes of toddlerhood, I've been told it'll take a while before I feel like a real person again, before I know who I am and what I like to do outside of being a mom and going to work. Because right now, it's hard. I'm using this to hopefully, try and find something that I want to do outside of being a mom and, being a full-time ambulance dispatcher, from midnight to 8 a.m., and taking care of those guys. But across the board, I'm taking care of people all day, every day for the most part. And sometimes when you're doing that, the person that you need to take care of as well is yourself. So please, please, please just remember that. And when you have your friends and like I said, you notice they're struggling, maybe you notice they're doing some of the same things that you did and you know for a fact that you had postpartum depression or just how much you struggled with that, it's okay to reach out. I don't care if it's their first kid or their 5th kid. If they are having trouble, they deserve someone to really just look at them and be like, no, this is not okay. You need to go take a shower, brush your teeth, brush your hair, do one of these things that's going to help you show up, clean their house, bring them a meal, bring them groceries for a meal, sit with them and just be present. And I mean, truly present. If they want to talk, don't force them. But if they want to talk about it, hell yeah. I'll tell you every struggle that I had. I'll tell you about the time that my kid fell out of his little seat because I literally could not use my brain to figure out what was happening because I was so just out of it and it was just so crazy. I just didn't even know what was happening. And sometimes your friends' kids could be 4 or 5 and they could be still struggling with stuff like this. It's okay to take a moment and go and see them and do things and, be happy to just hang out with them when you can. Now, obviously, my best friends live really far away. It's not something that I can do. But do I try and help them out when I can? Yes. Sometimes that's calling them up. Sometimes that's letting them bitch to me over, Facebook Messenger about something stupid that's happening. And guess what? I'm going to be there for them. I am going to give them advice if they want it. I'm going to sit there and be like, yeah, no, that was really stupid. And I don't even know who does that. Someone stupid. That's who. Being an anxious soul that I am, making connections with people is really hard for me. I have a desire to be your friend. If you're listening to this and I've talked to you and we just haven't hung out, guess what? I want to be your friend, but the follow through is really hard for me. So I'm not going to make the plans. I'm going to cancel these plans often. I probably will never show up unless I really force myself. I got to amp myself up, but I want to be your friend. I want to hang out. I want to sit there and do things. Just because I don't lead a conversation does not mean that I don't want to be your friend. And that goes for so many people that I've met. It's not that no one wants to be your friend. It's just that none of us know what to do to really be friends. So let's just give each other some grace. And especially the anxious introverts out there, we want to be friends with people. We just don't know how to do it. So please help us. But not too much, because then I'll probably cry a little bit on the inside. All of these things that I've put in here regarding postpartum depression, as well as some resources if you feel like you are suffering, there is going to be a link listed in the show notes. Please feel free to check those out. I would say pass it along to your friends, but that might be, depending on the relationship you have with them, could sound a little bit too straightforward, but is what it is. This whole it takes a village thing. So we've gone over what do they mean when they say it takes a village? Creating that support group, creating that environment where your kids can be safe and free. And, my friend's going to whoop my kid's ass if he's just as bad as her kid is because he jumped off the back of her couch. It just, sometimes it happens. If her kid hops on me, am I going to tell him to possibly step away? There's a good chance. But the crazy thing is, through everything that I was looking at, everything that I was reading, it is absolutely almost impossible to find that village in developed nations. We are so go, go, go. Everyone is so busy, and we're all trying to do that, list of 10 things to be the perfect mom, 10 activities your kid should be doing every day, and every other stupid article that I have read about making sandwiches shaped like stars because my son will be more likely to eat food if it's fun shaped. And guess what? He still doesn't eat it. He almost threw up an orange today. He's not going to eat it. He's going to eat chicken nuggets and he's going to be happy with it. And at this point, I don't even care. There's enormous pressure that is put on us to make up for what these entire communities used to provide. When a lot of our parents were growing up, there was just this sense of community. The neighbors might pick you up from school after a football game because your parents were too busy, or they might take you somewhere. They're going to help. But now there's so much less of that we are now all running ourselves ragged to try and keep up with this stupid stuff that society tells us we need to do, that nobody in society wants to do. So whoever you were that decided all of this needs to get done, I'm done with it. You should probably stop writing things because I'm a little bit over it. And my kid's probably not going to eat 800 different things every day. It's not going to happen. It just doesn't happen. Priorities became distorted as we attempted to meet all of these needs. We forget what normal looks and feels like. Leaves us feeling like we're not doing enough because, once again, those stupid articles, I'm over it. Whoever these women are that are writing them, we need to get with them because I doubt that they believe it either. I'm done with it. I'm over it. And if you do believe it, you're a witch, and I need to know which spell book you found all your spells in to keep your kids acting perfect and eating every food out there. Tell me, please, if you could just shoot me an email. That'd be great. practicalchaos@outlook.com. Shoot that to me over right now. We are relying heavily on social media for that sense of connection, and it leads us to feel even more inadequate and isolated because then you see all of us are posting. I made up my face because what you can't see, obviously, through the audio for this is I'm also filming a video as well, so I could look back on it and see just how dumb I look making this episode so that I can look back and make it even better for you guys going forward. But I made up my face for this so that I could feel good about myself. And guess what? That's all we're doing with our social media stuff is I'm taking a picture, I'm slapping 3 filters on it, I'm doing me and my son baking muffins, #love him, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? My son tried to eat the muffin batter, he threw half of it on the floor and I had to remake it, and there was a lot of me just yelling, no, please, for the love of God, stop touching things. And guess what? Nobody sees that because all they see is the post that I made that was making muffins with my boy, XOXO, heart face, heart face. And now they feel like, man, I should have really made muffins with my kid this morning. Emily is just on top of her shit. She works full time and she works nights and she has a kid and is doing all this stuff. Man, she is like a superwoman. No, I'm not. Like, I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. And I'm more than happy to slap a big old S on my chest and be a superwoman. But that's not how this is working. My kid probably got yelled at. He probably got banished from the kitchen when making these muffins. And mom made the muffins and had one good picture of her son stirring the muffin mix. That's all it was. So, you're welcome. When you see that stuff, now you know what's going on behind it, because it's me. All day, every day, we're feeling judged and we're feeling like all of this stuff is happening. We're just not doing enough. But guess what? Neither is anybody else. Nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to say it. Yes, you might get one or two hashtag no filter, woke up like this. No, she didn't. She woke up, she brushed her hair. Sure, maybe she didn't put makeup on, but that's not how that worked. It didn't work out that way, so it's okay. I'm an ugly troll in the morning. You could ask my husband. He will tell you. It is not pretty. Yes, he still loves me. He is still married to me after 8 years, but he is not happy with Troll Emily in the morning. I guarantee it. And guess what? Instagram would not be happy with Troll Emily either. So it's okay to just not be perfect. And I know that's stupid, but we make decisions that don't reflect our values, but they instead reflect that unmet need that we're not getting from our society. You know, we're going to go out and make 800 play dates, which, by the way, why is every play date at 10 a.m.? I know I'm okay with you if you are a stay-at-home mom. I'm okay with you if you want to have 10 a.m. play dates. Are there no other working moms who want play dates that aren't at 10 a.m. in the morning? Please, come on. But, you know, we're making all these decisions to take our kids to this stuff and put them in this class, that class, or the another. I literally saw a mom's schedule that she posted on a group that I'm in on Facebook, and it was, she takes her kid to school, she picks her kid up to school, or her kid goes to study hall after school, and then her kid goes to cheerleading, and then there's dance, and then there's this. And that's only on Mondays. Like, no, we're doing all of this stuff because we're trying to make sure that our kids are so well-rounded, which is fantastic, and they should be. But we're burning ourselves out in the process. Like I said, mom or dad, all of us, we're burning ourselves out in the process trying to get here. And the most tragic part of all of this is that this whole absence of having that actual village is distorting many mothers' sense of self. It's causing us to feel that our inadequacies are to blame for our struggles, which then makes us feel worse and worse and worse. It's a trap. It is this self-perpetuating cycle, and it derives its strength from the oppressive mindsets that we're all in, that I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough. Man, I didn't make my kids lunch, I made them get hot lunch. I don't know if they still call it that. That's what I'm going to call it. But, you know, I didn't make my kids lunch today. Oh, but that mom over there, she has like fruit cut into stars and stuff. Well, okay, maybe she has her fruit cut into stars because her kid refuses to brush his teeth every day. She's like, well, if I make a healthy lunch, maybe it'll balance itself out. Guess what, mom? It does. It balances itself out. Your kid will learn to brush his teeth eventually, or all of his teeth will fall out and he'll live with that consequence. Because guess what? We cannot prevent everything. It's just not how it works. Since the beginning of time, back to when everyone lived in legit villages, all of the moms were together when it came to dealing with all of this stuff. They're, you know, we're going way back. Remember this. Remember when I'm using these examples. You know, they're at the streams, they're washing their clothes, they're watching all the kids splash around, you know, something happened, they're mourning the loss with each other, they are helping each other. In less developed countries, they don't let moms leave their houses after they have children for months at sometimes, because they know these moms need time to heal. So these women are picking up the slack, and you know, they're tending each other's wounds, physical and emotional, and they're relying on each other for strength during these difficult times, whether it's childbirth, motherhood, you know, the loss of someone dear to you. All of this is coming together, and they're seeking counsel from everyone, from, you know, their neighbor next door to maybe an elderly woman who has gone through all of this before and wants to give some advice. That village life fostered that sense of safety, inclusiveness, acceptance, and the importance of who it was to be a woman and to be a mom. And now we're trying to create all of that for ourselves, and it's really difficult because there's so much out there about what you should be doing and what you're not doing. And it's because society is a whole new set of priorities. It's profits before people. So I know you've all seen memes that, oh, crashed my car and my boss said, when are you still coming to work? That's a real thing that people are struggling with. That's a real thing that happens, and it's threatening the well-being of parents and everything that we as parents are wired to protect when it comes to our children and our homes and the people that we love. And it's absolutely crazy, and we have to kind of get beyond it and figure out what we're doing with our lives. All right, so I got some things you're going to focus on, you're going to go through. So let's get really clear. Just because you're struggling does not mean that you are inadequate or a failure as a person or a parent. It just doesn't. That's not how that works. Like I said before, you have all of these things that you're told you need to do every day, all day, till the end of time. And guess what? Sometimes it's okay to not do that laundry that's sitting there or not fold it, because instead you want to go sit down and watch some trashy show or a movie. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect all the time. You are allowed to take a moment for yourself. I have trouble with this, so I completely understand when you sit there and you go, but Emily, really? No, really, it's okay. You can do that. You can take an hour-long shower, even though you were clean in 15 minutes, because you are a pro at the speed shower. It's okay to take a little bit longer. Your kid will survive, I promise you. They will be okay. It's important to try and feel that you're part of something. That could be you post every day in your mom group on Facebook. If that makes you feel like you're part of something beyond yourself, then that's okay. And that's something that you should be doing. Do your part, but only your part. You don't need to pick up everybody else's slack just because in your head it's slacking. Because in my head, it's slacking all the time. Everybody's slacking, but that doesn't mean that you need to do the things that they should be responsible for. Do what you need to do and don't overcommit yourself. It's hard, yes, but it's something that needs to be done. Be easy on yourself. Give yourself grace on those days when you should clean the living room because your kid dumped toys all over it today for me. But instead, you are just going to hang out with your kid. You're going to watch a show. You're going to watch a movie. It's okay to tell yourself that this is not something that needs to get done right now. I'm not going to do it right now because I am tired. I am worn out. I am just completely over being a person. Because guess what? It's okay. It's okay to be a person. So building our communities, building that village, what we can do is just help each other out. Give a mom grace just because her kid is screaming in the grocery store. Don't act like you've never been there, because you have. Your kid has thrown a fit somewhere that is less than ideal, and that's okay, because they're kids, they're learning how to be people, despite the fact that it annoys us to no end. Because my kid definitely screamed through the whole freezer section in my grocery store the other day, and they could hear him all the way at the front. And when I got to the front and he yelled up there, they were like, oh, that was you. But it's okay, because the mom with multiple kids should not feel like she's being judged for having too many kids. She should feel supported and reassured that her fellow moms and human beings, because we're all little beings, we're all human beings, will be there to support her by doing something as simple as rolling her grocery cart back to the little cart return so that she can get all of her little demon spawn clipped into their car seats that they're going to be struggling to get into, because toddlers and car seats are just two things that just don't go together, despite the fact that they have to. The woman having problems with her cart at a grocery store checkout shouldn't feel like she needs to rush because she assumes that I'm in a hurry and I can't wait those couple more minutes for her to gather her thoughts and figure out what's going on, or purchase the cold medicine that she had, because that's the only thing that she needed, and she had to drag her kid out of the house and into the cold and throw him in the car and try and get him where he needs to be. As humans, we need to give each other grace and mercy, and remember that none of us knows what the hell is going on, and sometimes we just need someone to help. It's okay. I see you with your kid screaming in the restaurant, just trying to enjoy your meal and pretend that it's not happening, because he's going to do this regardless of if you talk to him or you just let him scream it out. It's going to happen. I see you, Dad, with your 2 kids trying to finish your grocery shopping and one of them screaming that he wants apples, despite the fact there are already apples in the cart. And you have them, you're trying to tell them that they just need to be bought so you can eat them. And I also see you, person with no kids, who is standing at the register with your fingers crossed, just hoping that your card's going to go through because payday's tomorrow and you hope that there's enough money. You know, I see you and I want to help you more. I want to be better, and I hope that you see me when my kid is screaming and throwing things at me and coloring on himself with the pen I use to cross things off my grocery list. And you can offer me that grace and that compassion that I am hoping I can offer you as well. Let's all do one thing for those people and build our village for ourselves. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to have someone that you talk to every day that lives next door to you. It could be just something as simple as telling yourself, you know what, I'm going to put this woman's grocery cart back for her, or I'm going to play peekaboo with the baby who's screaming in the restaurant instead of feeling, like I need to look the other way and pretend it's not happening. We all have bad days, and it's okay. None of us knows what the hell we're doing, what the hell's going on, and we're really all just trying to make it to nap time, to bedtime, to the next day. We all just want to make it, and none of us know what the hell's happening. So build your village. Start here, start now. Look at me being all inspiring and junk. Alrighty, my friends. Well, that's all I have for you today. So I will see you on the flip side. Toodles.